Hello, good evening to you and welcome to News 360. We are live from the News Hub at Adisawe Kanda this evening. I'm Natalie Fort.
And my name is Alfred Okanse. Coming up in the bulletin tonight.
News 360 headline brought to you by
Former Cocoa Board CEO Dr. Stephen Opuni and two others charged for causing financial loss to the state.
Minister of State in charge of procurement, Ajua Safo, directs Member of Parliament for Chairman to seek answers relating to procurement of vehicles by Maslock, valued at 28 million cedis from the Finance Ministry.
Also ahead this evening, Right to Information Action Campaign Group activates countdown, giving government 10 days to get Right to Information bill laid before Parliament.
Inflation inches up by 0.3%. That's in business tonight.
And on the foreign front this evening, Mauritius president refuses to quit over an expense scandal.
We have details of these and more with sports and entertainment coming up tonight here in the next 60 minutes here on News 360. Feel free to share your thoughts with us on our various social media platforms. Well, first story tonight, the Attorney General has filed 27 charges, including causing financial loss to the state against former Chief Executive Officer of Cocoa Board, Dr. Stephen Kwabena Opuni. Joined to the suit is Chief Executive Officer of Zira Group of Companies, Seidu Agongo and Agricult Ghana Limited.
So in total, these charges are 27 between all the three parties involved. And I'm going to run us by the joint charges and the separate charges here. Now, Dr. Opuni, as we know, Dr. Opuni together with Seidu Adongo and Agricult Ghana Limited were charged with abetment of crime, defrauding by false pretenses, conspiracy to commit crime, willfully causing financial loss to the state, corruption of public officer, all in contravention of the Criminal and Other Offences Act 229 there. So this is what makes up the joint charges, which forms 27 charges in total. And the separate charges, Dr. Opuni separately has been found to have breached aspects of the Public Procurement Act when he procured a substance described as Litovitz fertilizer using public funds without satisfying the prescribed condition for single-source procurement as provided by the Public Procurement Act of 2003, Act 663. He's been accused of obtaining approval for single-source procurement without price quotations, as well as misrepresenting facts in order to obtain unfair advantage to Agricult. And that's specifically within the case of Dr. Opuni and what he has been sued for specifically. And then the separate charges, and this is where Agricult comes in. Seidu Adongo and Agricult Ghana have been charged collectively for breaching the Anti-Money Laundering Act, Act 749, that he's accused of engaging in money laundering, manufacturing fertilizer without registration, selling misbranded fertilizer, and selling adulterated fertilizer contrary to the Plant and Fertilizer Act, Act 803. And so this is what the charges are, all totaling 27 of them. And we'll certainly be probing this further and show what, in fact, it means and what it would be reflecting in terms of Dr. Opuni and all the two other parties involved in this case, Alfred.
Well, thank you, Natalie, for summary for us. But you recall in January 2017 when Dr. Opuni was relieved of his position as Cocoa Board CEO. In February, since February 2017 till now, his assets and his accounts have been frozen by the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO. They expected March 23, that's next week, to be in court. But in consultation with the legal practitioner, lawyer Martin Pebo, he explains that most of the second-degree felonies, including defrauding by false pretense, attracts a 25-year penalty if convicted. Now, lawyer Pebo has been explaining to TV3 the factors which were taken into consideration in preparing the charges against the former CEO of Cocoa Board, Dr. Stephen Kwabena Opuni.
You would have the abatement. Also speaking, the abatement means that you're helping somebody to commit an offense. Okay, so let's say that the person is preparing to defraud another person, and then you with material. So let's say that maybe the person is about to make false representations, and then you help that person to really make them. So let's say he doesn't even know what to say, but you help him, you perfect the things that he should present. So let's say he wants to bid for that contract, he doesn't have the things, yet you would tell him that, yes, I could help you do this, knowing very well that at the end of the day, you want to commit an offense, but not to do genuine business. The examples abound. So in short, we would say that it means that the prosecution, in its estimation, I haven't seen, so it means that we can only credit them for now. We will presume that they know what they're doing and that from the evidence they have checked, they have sufficient evidence to mount such charges.
Okay. Most of the charges are second-degree felonies. What are the consequences? What goes with them?
Good. When you say second degree, it's a broad category, very broad, yes. So basically, for a lot of the second degree felonies, it comes up to 25 years. Okay? But let's be specific. Let's say some of the charges that at least I heard, I haven't read, or for some of them that I heard, when you hear defrauding by false pretenses, that carries up to a maximum of 25 years of imprisonment if the person is convicted. Yes, when you say somebody has defrauded by false pretenses, it will range from a fine up to 25 years of detention. That's, of course, if you want the law, you're talking about section 296 of Act 30. If you say abetting somebody to defraud by false pretenses, those ones also carry the same sentence as if the crime had been committed. So if the person is abetting the offense, usually in the law, he'll be punished as if he also committed it. Yes, so it will also go with up to 25 years. Oh, naturally, I'm sure he would come with his defense. You would not expect that for such a case, there would not be the other side. You know, they say every coin has two sides. So I think that's why it's meant to be a fair trial. So naturally, I can imagine that he would also mount a very spirited defense. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Meanwhile, the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, Edem Senanu, says he is not surprised that the former CEO of Cocoa Board, Dr. Stephen Kwabena Opuni, has been sued. He said the case will serve as a deterrent to other public officials. He advised that public sector officials should pay attention to details, especially when carrying out assignments on behalf of the state.
To the extent that one ends up in jail, one ought to be more careful. I think what has happened is that for a very long time, these cases have not run their full mileage and people held culpable. So many officers and officials think, oh, we can get away. Let's just single source, let's just procure, etc. This type of case will begin to send the right message and serve as a deterrent for many more officials who may be inclined to thinking that, look, let's just use single source, give it to our own friends, share the money, create loot and share, and Ghana is the poorer for it. So I think that these cases are serious cases. They may have become normal because we haven't seen people prosecuted and jailed for it, but hopefully all of that is going to change. So I believe potentially we've gotten to the point where a lot more cases are going to be seen in the public space where individuals and groups who have defrauded the state will be held accountable.
Let's still stay with the courts. The Supreme Court has dismissed an application for judicial review filed by Standard Bank Offshore Company against the National Investment Bank, NIB. According to the Apex Court, the application failed to meet requirements set for review.
A 7-member panel presided over by Chief Justice Sophia Kufu with Justices William Atuguba, Julius Ansa, Sophia Adinuna, Jones Doche, K. Enin Yeboah, and A.A. Benin assistant sat on the case. Justice Jones Doche, who delivered the judgment, emphasized the option for review should not be an avenue for the satisfied litigant to re-argue their case. The Supreme Court was of the view the application failed to establish a case of miscarriage of justice, and the ordinary bench did not misapply the facts. The only condition met was filling the application within the 1 month period stipulated by law. The Apex Court dismissed the application on the basis that it lacked merit. The review was praying the Supreme Court to set aside its decision to dismiss a $60 million judgment debt entered against NIB. A commercial division of the Accra High Court in February 2013 ordered NIB to pay the money to Standard Bank Offshore Company, and the decision was upheld by the Court of Appeal in October 2013 following an appeal from NIB. Not satisfied with the court's ruling, NIB took the matter to the Supreme Court, asking it to quash the decisions of the two lower courts.
Let's turn to other stories now. As Minister of State in charge of procurement, Wednesday failed to answer questions asked her by a Member of Parliament. According to Adwoa Safo, her office does not have the mandate to answer questions on procurement issues in Parliament.
MP for Ashaiman, Ernest Nogbe, filed 2 questions to be asked the Minister of State in charge of procurement. The first question was whether, apart from Vocacom, any other company did bid for the Ghana Post GPS. But Adwoa Safo told the MP to direct that question to the Communications Ministry, since her outfit does not undertake procurement for any ministry.
I want to ask the Minister, is she the Minister responsible for public procurement or the Minister responsible for presidential procurement?
I am the Minister of State in charge of procurement at the Presidency. Mr. Speaker, during my vetting and even before my vetting, there was a hula baloo as to the existence of the Public Procurement Authority already and why my office. At my vetting, and His Excellency also in an interview assured Ghanaians that he is not duplicating responsibilities and that my office is only advisory to advise him on policies and strategies of government on public procurement matters.
The second question posed to her was what procurement method was used by Maslock in awarding the contract worth 28.8 million Ghana cedis to Dextro Impex to supply 1,800 vehicles.
The PPA, as an agency legally placed under the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Speaker, per the definition section of the Public Procurement Act 2003, Act 663, and Act 914 as amended, a minister is defined, Mr. Speaker. A minister means the minister responsible for finance. Mr. Speaker, I take it again. Minister is defined as minister means minister responsible for finance. Hence, in accordance with our standing orders, Order 62 of this House, Mr. Speaker, the question ought to be directed to the Ministry of Finance.
For us to advertise the question and for the minister to then come and then tell the honorable member that he has to then direct the question back to another ministry, Mr. Speaker. I think we should be guided. But, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't make for effective work.
For the sake of assisting the questioner, you don't need to even reapply. I'm helping you by asking the table office to redirect this question to the Honorable Minister for Finance. And that is the end of the matter.
But the Ashaiman MP suggested the procurement office be scrapped if the minister cannot answer questions in Parliament.
I have been saying consistently that some of the ministries created are redundant. They are of no use. And this is clear indication that the Ministry for Public Procurement is redundant. Because if the minister cannot answer questions pertaining to public procurement, then what is the use of that ministry? What is the use of that minister? Therefore, this particular ministry should be scrapped off. It's a burden on the taxpayer.
Parliament resumes sitting Thursday.
President Akufo-Addo says government is determined to find a lasting solution to the nomadic herdsmen and crop farmers conflict across the country. At a meeting with the Council of Fulani Chiefs at the Flagstaff House in Accra, the president called for effective collaboration to ensure peace.
The meeting is the first between the National Council of Fulani Chiefs and a sitting president. The meeting, which had some government officials in attendance at the instance of the chiefs, was to find ways of resolving the age-long conflict between nomadic herdsmen and crop farmers.
The continued occurrence and reoccurrence of the conflict between nomadic herdsmen and crop farmers and other crimes that has been associated with Fulani and the Fulani ethnic grouping in the country has been giving us sleepless nights. We are not here to condone or defend the actions of anybody, but happily make ourselves available for consultations with your government and other stakeholders in providing a lasting solution to this recurring nomadic menace.
President Akufo-Addo said finding a lasting solution to the impasse will guarantee the protection of all citizens.
You hear about the fights that have been going on in different parts of the country, in Ashanti, Volta region, and Eastern region. They're very disturbing. And therefore, finding a solution is one of the big concerns of my government. We want to have a solution that will protect everybody, the herdsmen, their cattle, and the communities in which they work.
Let's now turn to our MTN Vigil reports this evening as Shadrach Arthur reports from the Dwaboso and Bia district on the poor state of the Benchema in Kwanta Osei Kojo Krom Road.
This is the Benchema in Kwanta Osei Kojo Krom Road in the Dwaboso and Bia district. This is a major road that links to Ivory Coast. The nature of the road makes commuting really difficult.
You're watching News 360 from the News Hub at Adisawe, Kanda. We've got some business news coming up for you shortly. Stay with us.
Thanks so much for staying with us. Still News 360. Good evening. It's time for business. My name is Nanikia Mensah Brampa. Inflation for the month of February is 10.6%. Now the rate registered a 0.3 percentage point rise from the 10.3% recorded in January 2018.
The monthly change rate for February 2018 was 0.9%. compared to the 1.4% recorded for January 2018. The main price drivers for the non-food inflation rate were transport 18.9%, clothing and footwear 16.6%, recreation and culture 13.2%, and miscellaneous goods and services 12.9%. The price drivers for the food inflation rate were fruit 9.8%, coffee, tea and cocoa 9.3%, vegetables 8.7%, mineral water, soft drinks, fruit and vegetable juices 8.3%, meat and meat products 8.2%, and food products 7.7%. Acting government statistician Bawadie explained the cause of the rise in inflation.
This is due mainly to the fact that both food inflation and non-food inflation went up. But the underlying factor is, one, largely due to base drift effects and some slight adjustments in fuel prices in February. These account for what we are observing.
What does this imply for the average man on the street?
Compared to the general price level in February 2017, these price levels have gone up on average by 10.6% in February 2018. That is the basic message.
I mean, it's a higher cost of living.
Yes, that is implied. If it is not backed by adjustments, higher adjustments in income or other social interventions.
He said preparations are far advanced for the rebasing of the economy next month and that it will take care of new development in the economy.
We expect that latest by June, the new rebased GDP figures will be out. So these are the timelines. And the new GDP would have a base year of 2013, moving the base year from the year 2006 to a current base year of 2013.
The last time the economy was rebased was in 2010.
Right, let's now look at some legal matters within the banking sector. The managing director of National Investment Bank, John Kweku Asamoah, has admitted that the legal battle between NIB and Standard Bank Offshore Company has adversely affected the bank over the past 8 years. He has, however, expressed optimism the judgment would increase the confidence of customers in the bank. Now, this follows the Supreme Court's dismissal of an application for judicial review filed against the National Investments Bank NIB by the Standard Bank Offshore Company.
This is a landmark case that has really affected the bank in the past. We are very hopeful that with this case behind us, all our stakeholders must now be very confident in the leadership of the bank, and we now set to move to our next phase.
And away from that, telecommunication company MTN paid 1.218 billion cedis in taxes to government in 2017. Chief Financial Officer of MTN Ghana, Modupe Kadri, disclosed this at a network's annual media and stakeholder engagement conference here in Accra.
At the 2018 edition of MTN's annual stakeholder engagement in Accra, the Chief Executive Officer of MTN Ghana, Ebenezer Chum Asante, said that MTN is committed to upholding its values and maintaining its coveted position as Ghana's leading telecommunications network. The engagement is usually an event at which the company shares its successes in the past year and its expectations for the coming year with key stakeholders such as suppliers, distributors, the media and other partners. The CEO, Ebenezer Asante, highlighted MTN's digital, commercial, technological and financial accomplishments. He said the huge sum paid to government signifies their respect for business regulations. 1.218 billion Ghana cedis was paid in 2017 to the government of Ghana in the form of taxes to the Ghana Revenue Authority (GRA) and the National Communication Authority (NCA).
For 2018, I see MTN as a farm bed of opportunities to be nurtured. And that farm bed, we would work with all our partners to ensure that they also grow very well so that we can grow. And collectively, we will all produce the best of fruits available within the space in this country.
One of the key speakers at the event, General Manager of MTN, Eli Hene, threw more light on recent security problems facing mobile money vendors. He said MTN is working with the police and other security agencies to ensure mobile money vendors are safe.
We are using the Ghana Post GPS, and that will help us to easily locate agents if there's any requirement for any support. And dovetail into that is the work we are doing with the security agencies. For the police side, we've been working with them for over a year now. We started by building capacity for them so they understand how the service works, so that when issues come to their attention, they are able to support in addressing them quickly.
He concluded that 2017 had set a solid base for excellence in 2018.
And in more tonight, Executive Director of the IFS, Professor Newman Kusi, says government's recent indication to issue bonds and other projects financing mechanisms would increase the debt ratio to an uncontrolled state. Now, in an interview with TV3 Business, Professor Newman Kusi argued that the rising interest payment on the debt continues to drain financial resources allocated for the construction of critical infrastructure.
Over the last decade, Ghana's interest payment on debts has increased from 300 million to about 15 billion cedis. This suggests that resources have been taken away from several critical sectors of the economy, with serious negative implications for growth and poverty reduction. Executive Director of IFS, Professor Newman Kusi, disclosed that presently government spends 42% of its revenue on interest payments. A development he bemoans is draining resources earmarked for other purposes.
As a result of the high debt that we have and the interest that we pay on the debt. For instance, the interest that we pay on debt increased from 2.4 billion in 2012 to 2.4 billion in 2012 to 13.28 billion in last year, and this year we're going to pay about 14.9 billion cedis as interest on debt, not to the debt itself, as interest on debt. And if you relate it to the revenue that we collect, you see that as of 2016, for every cedi that we collected, 41 pesos went to pay interest on our debt. And this year, 2018, for every cedi that we collect, about 39 pesos will go to pay interest. So if you collect one cedi and you pay 39 pesos, you used to pay interest, then how much is left to fund all the government activities and those type of things?
Right, and there's more from the IFS on 3news.com, plus other business updates. But that will do for tonight. My name is Nanikia Mensah Brampa. Well, if you're expecting your electricity tariff price to drop by tomorrow, well, Alfred doesn't have too much good news.
Oh, well, should I be the bearer of this news, Nanikia? But Electricity Company of Ghana is saying that it will only implement the 17.5% reduction announced by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PRC, at the end of this month, instead of the 15th of March, that's tomorrow, as directed by the PRC. At a news conference in Accra, the managing director of the company, Engineer Boachi Apia, said the ECG has taken this decision due to its billing system, which cannot be adjusted to suit the 15th of March. Consequently, the new tariffs will take effect from the end of March.
The PRC announced a 17.5% reduction for residential and a 30% reduction in tariff for non-residential clients. It again announced a 10% reduction in tariff for companies situated in the mining areas. Engineer Boachi Apia agreed to implement the new tariff reduction authorized by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, only at the end of this month.
Because of the billing cycle, the prepayment systems have also been programmed in that way. And for that reason, we are saying that when you purchase units for the prepaid, your records will be there. And then on 1st April, when we are doing the computing, it will take that into account and credit you, and you see a reduction in whatever reduction that you deserve would reflect.
Currently, management of ECG is disappointed that it requested for a 100% increase in tariffs but was denied by the PURC. The managing director has indicated plans for assessing the reduction and will petition the PURC if the reduction will have dire consequences on their operations.
If you listen to the PURC announcement carefully, they also said that they were going to apply the automatic adjustment formula. So within this framework, when we have determined the numbers, and if indeed there are losses on our part, we'll go back to them.
Meanwhile, the management has pleaded with customers to exercise restraint with ECG.
And some other top stories this evening. The Right to Information Action Campaign Group has activated its countdown clock, giving government 10 days to get the Right to Information bill laid before Parliament. The campaign aims at holding the president to honour his pledge to get the bill passed by Parliament before the Easter break.
Dear President, dear Parliament, dear Speaker of Parliament, dear minority and majority leaders in Parliament, please 10 days lay the Right to Information bill. If you cannot lay it, give the nation a reason why. We don't believe you have a reason. So if you don't lay it, it means you just don't want to lay it. The reason why you don't want to lay it is because you want to hide information. The reason why you want to hide information is because you want to defend and protect corrupt people. And that is because you are nation wreckers. If you are not, lay the RTI bill.
The Right to Information Campaign Action Group argues the bill is long overdue, so they will pressure government to ensure its passage through the House.
We have activated a countdown clock. The President's Independence Day statement on RTI said the bill would be laid and passed before Parliament rises for its meeting. Parliament is due to go on recess before the end of this month. At the minimum, we expect the bill to be laid in Parliament before it goes on recess.
The campaign will also institute an RTI Hall of Shame and Fame where government agencies will be inducted based on how they facilitate access to information for citizens.
There's virtually nothing extra to be done about the document that we have in Parliament. For those who say it needs to be reworked, please, laws have been passed over and again and they are amended in due course. We cannot wait to finish and have what you deem is the best before we can pass it.
It's been 22 years since the first RTI draft bill was drafted under the auspices of the IEA in 1996. It also marks 16 years.
So we'll keep track on this and definitely in the next 10 days let you know what happens. So live here on News 360. We're back with some sports news. Do stay with us.
Good evening. Let's run by you the major sporting stories for the day on News 360. My name is Michael Uti. Remember, this bulletin is also available on DSTV channel 279. Now, tonight, the big thing everybody is talking about is the UEFA Champions League. This particular game, Chelsea versus Barcelona. Both clubs have arrived at the Camp Nou. The big story from it, as far as everything is concerned, is that Barcelona have gone with Iniesta and Dembele in the same team. For Chelsea, the big difference in terms of the lineup from the first leg is that Olivier Giroud starts up front for them. One Champions League game done tonight involved Besiktas versus Bayern Munich. Easy ride for Bayern Munich. They won by 3-1 in Turkey. They progress off the back of that on an 8-1 aggregate, becoming the 7th team through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Either Chelsea or Barcelona will join them tonight, and we'll tell you how that goes later on Sports Unlimited. Let's shift on to other issues then. And ahead of the court hearing of a legal challenge between Accra Great Olympics and the Ghana Football Association tomorrow, the Ghana Premier League's legal problems has been compounded further with another injunction. An Accra Great Olympics fan, Enoch Nibi Osekan, has placed a fresh injunction on the league. The fan, who describes himself as, quote, a gracious informant, claims the GFA has not applied the right rules in dealing with Olympics. The fan requested World Football Governing Body FIFA to intervene in the Olympics matter long before it became a legal dispute. But FIFA declined on the grounds that it is purely an internal issue. He sought audience with the GFA, which he claims he didn't get. The latest injunction could mean that even if the GFA is successful in putting aside the Olympics hurdle in court tomorrow, the Ghana Premier League could still be delayed beyond the coming weekend. And even as the lawmen at the GFA try to sort out that particular issues, Premier League clubs have been preparing for the start of the season, and they've agreed a proposal from broadcast sponsor Star Times to move home games around for the purposes of television coverage.
Under the agreement, each club will play at least one game at a designated television-friendly venue away from their home ground as the broadcaster seeks to improve television coverage of the league. 5 venues, Kumasi, Sogakope, Cape Coast, Elmina and Obuasi, have been designated as the television-friendly venues for the league under the arrangement. But TV3 Sports understands clubs in the Bono Hafu region insist Doma must be added to that list after it was upgraded for Aduana Stars CAF Champions League campaign. The Premier League board vehemently opposed the initial proposal, but that stance has changed after a meeting between the clubs and the emergency committee of the Ghana Football Association on Tuesday. The clubs softened their stance after both Star Times and the Ghana Football Association agreed to compensate the clubs for the inconvenience of moving them around. Clubs whose home games are moved to facilitate television coverage will be paid a compensation of around 8,000 Ghana cedis by both the Ghana Football Association and Star Times, while away clubs travelling extra distances to the television-friendly venues will also be compensated.
On to boxing now, and boxing promoter Bob Arum says Isaac Dogbe's father has gone too far with his pre-match trash talk after he said his son will beat Jesse Magdaleno, throw him over the Mexican wall, and present the title to Donald Trump.
Trash talk between fighters and their teams is commonplace before boxing matches. But the comments from Paul Dogbe, the father of Isaac Dogbe, ahead of his son's fight with title holder Jesse Magdaleno, went too far, according to top-ranked promoter Bobby Arum. Magdaleno and Dogbe are scheduled to meet in the mandatory bouts on April the 14th at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, and the Dogbe camp has been cranking up the pre-fight talk. Dogbe's father, Paul, a constant presence in his son's camp, says, "We are focused and our only mission is to devour him, eat the crazy chicken, throw him over the wall of Mexico, and present the title to Donald Trump. Magdaleno will run when he sees Isaac." The reference to the Mexican wall and Trump has not pleased Arum, a vocal critic of Trump, especially because of his stance on immigration and desire to build a wall on the United States southern border. He condemned the comments as intolerant rhetoric and urged him to apologize to Magdaleno, who is of Mexican heritage. Magdaleno is unbeaten in 25 fights, while Dogbe has not lost in 18 bouts.
Now, still on boxing, the Azuma Nelson Fight Night returns on March 24th after the last one was disrupted by rain. Around 5 bouts will take place at the Azuma Nelson Boxing Arena under the auspices of the Ghanaian legend, who says the Fight Night is one of the ways by which he is trying to ensure that Ghana continues to get good boxers.
See all these boys, you know, they want to become champions in future, you know, so we try to, help them, you know, pushing them, you know, try to see what we can do for them to achieve their aims. You know, we just want the nation and the world to hear about Ghana boxing, you know, and produce. We want them to know that we are producing. We're trying to produce champions, world champions, good world champions. We're talking about WBC, the WBA, you know. That's the champions we are looking for, you know. So that is. We want everybody to know that Ghana is a boxing country.
What were your best memories?
Let's go on to some other stories then. And in football, Harry Kane, he's been in superb form for Tottenham Hotspur, but they will have to deal without him up to April after damaging ankle ligaments in Sunday's Premier League win over Bournemouth. Now, the Kane, who has scored 35 goals for Spurs this season, injured his right ankle in a collision with the Bournemouth goalkeeper. It means he will be out of action until April. It will be a major blow for Spurs given his importance. In Premier League league games this season, 39 appearances, 35 goals. He's had 4 assists as well. He's been effectively the fuel that has been driving them on. And that's all the sports for now. My name is Michael Otieji.
And on the international front tonight, the head of International Relations Department at Webster University, Dr. Agnes Kojisi, has stated that the abrupt curtailing of former U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's visit to Africa following his sacking is evidence of the little regard the Trump administration places on U.S.-Africa relations.
Rex Tillerson's first trip to Africa as U.S. Secretary of State also turned out to be his final one. On March 1, the Department of State announced that Rex Tillerson was to visit 5 countries in Africa, namely Chad, Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya and Nigeria, from March 6 to 13 to discuss counter-terrorism trade and investment, among other things. Rex Tillerson conspicuously cancelled his scheduled events in Kenya on March 10, with officials saying that he was not feeling well after a long couple of days working on major issues back home, such as North Korea. President Donald Trump was initially reported to have asked Rex Tillerson to step aside sometime on March 9, following Tillerson's arrival in Kenya from Djibouti. Tillerson was reported to have been unaware of the reason for his firing. Though Rex Tillerson's visit to Africa was meant to advance United States' interest, discussions were dominated by China and China's ascendant role in Africa. On the eve of the trip, Rex Tillerson criticized China's model of economic diplomacy in Africa, claiming it endangers Africa's natural resources and its long-term economic political stability. When Rex Tillerson landed in Ethiopia as part of his 5-country tour, he also warned African nations against forfeiting their sovereignty and suggested they should carefully consider the terms of their agreements with China. The head of International Relations Department at Webster University, Dr. Agnes Ko-Jisi, noted the abrupt cancellation of his trip signifies the little regard placed by the Trump administration on Africa. This, she said, works to China's advantage.
President Xi Jinping is talking about being in power for far longer than the party's constitution allows, which gives it a much longer sense of stability, because we know who this guy is, we know who we'll be dealing with, and we know that he's going to see certain policies through. As compared to an administration where you never quite know who you'll be talking to the next day. Trump is probably not doing the U.S. a big favor in not giving a very clear and definite and stable direction to its foreign policies.
Reports revealed Tillerson found out about his firing via Twitter. The new CIA director, Mike Pompeo, has been nominated to become a new Secretary of State. And in some other international news this evening, Africa's only female head of state, Mauritian President Amina Gurib Fakim, is refused to quit over an expense scandal just days after it was announced that she would be resigning. Ms. Gurib Fakim denies any misconduct after allegations emerged she made tens of thousands worth of personal purchases on a charity bank card. Her officers said the purchases were accidental and have been paid back. The country's prime minister has said she would stand down on Monday, but the president's office has now contradicted this statement, saying Mrs. Gurib Fakim, a renowned scientist, had an identical credit card from the same bank and inadvertently used the card from the Planet Earth Institute for expenses not linked to her official duties. And there's more international news on our website. That's 3news.com. We've got some entertainment news coming up shortly. Stay with us.
So it feels good to be back again for entertainment news right here on News 360, brought to you by Vodafone, Power to You, and FanMax. Feel all your day beautifully clothed by Millie K and also fabric by GTP. Now, we are still in the month of March and it's Ghana month, and of course we are promoting Made in Ghana stuff. Alfred, my very first story this evening is going to let us into some great high life music, and of course one such person, King of High Life, E.T. Mensah. What do you know about him?
Natalie has to Google E.T. Mensah before.
I do know Nkebubaya, which is a lovely piece of his.
That's the first thing that comes up when you
No, that I've actually heard, and I think it's a lovely
Sing the
piece.
song if you know it. Sing it.
Nkebubaya. I'll just
Okay, let's leave it there, but let's let Ghanaians know more. As part of promoting the Ghanaian brand, TV3 Entertainment is celebrating the king of high life music, Emmanuel Tete Mensah, popularly known as E.T. Mensah. Songs like Nkebubaya, All For You, and Day by Day, all composed by the high life pioneer, kept the spirit of high life music alive.
Born in the Gold Coast in 1919, the famous king of high life music, E.T. Mensah, found his passion for music at an early age. At the age of 16, E.T. had already mastered how to play instruments, including the flute, piccolo, and the alto saxophone. Professionally, his music career took off in 1932, remaining active for years afterwards. E.T. Mensah played with bands including the Accra Orchestra Band, later becoming a leader of the Tempos Band, formed in 1946. E.T. Mensah's first recording, Nkebobaya, was released in 1951. Other amazing songs, including All For You, gave an impact to music lovers across the continent.
All for you, E.T., all for you. I dey wait you, Papa.
And High Life actually is indigenous among Ghanaians. So I found that it would be necessary to build up this music and introduce it to the dancing fans. And so the story started.
Freedom was the official song on the day Ghana was declared independent.
Ghana, we now have freedom. Ghana, land of freedom. Toils of the brave and the sweat of their labors. Toils of the brave which have brought results.
The continent was blessed with many other musicians. So how did E.T. earn the title King of High Life?
At the time when I took up the High Life, it wasn't very well arranged and given to the dancing fans. But my music was well harmonized and straightforward and simple. And so that was what actually gave an impact to my music. And they started straight away to call me King of High Life. And in 1967, the Art Council of Ghana really awarded me the title King of High Life. So as it is, I am the King of High Life in Ghana.
The high life style of music later declined, but E.T. Mensah remained active for years afterwards, inspiring many other singers to adopt the genre. The high life great died on July 19, 1996.
So in Nkebobaya, meaning I'll go with you, Natalie, you know him now. You know him.
I did know him from the beginning. Beautiful music.
Yes,
great.
Oh no, I'm not lying. I know E.T. Mensah's music. Lovely music.
No, but thank God for technology.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, so
yeah,
if we didn't know E.T. Mensah, we know him now.
Okay.
And that was a great piece.
By Owusu-Wara. Owusu-Wara put that report together for us. All right, so moving on to the second story. Acclaimed sound engineer and head of the Xylophone Art Club, Willie Roy, has been asked by management of the entertainment company to stay off all activities on live radio on Xylophone FM. Now, the decision comes on the back of his unsavory comment on a Facebook post which showed his biases against Xylophone signee Stonebwoy. Willie Roy, popularly known as DJ Roy, said, even Satan was wanted out of heaven, so we don't care if an artist wants to exit Xylophone. He added, when an artist has no self-confidence, he sees his own shadow as enemy. His comments attracted public outrage, with many calling for outright dismissal. So that was Willie Roy. All right, so my name is Nana Kwejuado, segment brought to you by Vodafone Power to You and FanMax. Thank you so much. Don't forget to post your pictures on our social media platforms.
We celebrate GH. Hashtag we celebrate GH. Thank you for spending your 60 minutes with us. My name is Alfred Okansi.
And I'm Natalie Force. Visit our website, 3news.com, for some more news. Remember, news at 10 simulcast on our sister station. That's 3FM 92.7. Thanks so much for watching. Have a lovely evening.